Feeling overwhelmed, unmotivated? Have things you want to accomplish but don't know where to start? Download your free goals template below and watch the short training to learn how I use weekly goals to outline my week, get unstuck, and build on my own momentum. In this short tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and give you some ideas of some things that have worked for me in establishing weekly goals. This is something that really helps me when I'm feeling a mixture of overwhelmed or unmotivated, or I just don't know where to start. I have too many things to do, or I just don't quite know what to focus on in my life. I'm the kind of person who really feels like I've got a lot of things to update and change in my life. And sometimes I get overwhelmed with thinking of too many things that I need to work on. And so this really helps me narrow it down to just a few things so I can focus on and receive the most value throughout my efforts in the week. So this is the printable that you're going to have access to when you download it. And depending on which one you've downloaded, you're going to either see a fresh blank copy like this, or you'll see a copy right here with these blue boxes. This is the printable version, the kind that you just print out and you write in. But if you are more digitally oriented, this is a typable document, so you can actually type words into it right here. So in each of the printables, there's 2 pages. The first page right here shows the categories that I use in my life. I just included that because they're pretty generic categories, and I think that a lot of people will have access to them. But if you don't have some of these, or if you have other categories in your life that you would like to focus on more, you definitely do not need to use these categories specifically. So that's what the second sheet is right here. And so you can write in your own categories that pertain to your life and figuring out what areas are most important to you. And the digital version also has the same. So if you have, if you wanted to type in the categories here, you can type in each one there. So, and the second sheet right here is just another box for a specific area that you can focus on. So I'm going to kind of just go over my procedure for thinking of my weekly goals. This is really good at, if you think about kind of in each area, I'm just going to go ahead and use the digital version so you can kind of work along here with me. If you think about the overall vision of what you want to be in each of these areas, you know, for me specifically, things that are important to me in my personal life, I like to be effective and productive in completing the things that I need to do to run my household. I want to be well-read and well-learned. I love to seek out knowledge and strive to learn the best that I can. So those are priorities for me right now. Things that I'm also working on right now is preparing for a family. My husband and I have recently married, and we are working on preparing for a family, so that those are also personal things. Health-oriented things go into that as well. And so you can kind of think about an overall view of what you want to accomplish, where you want to be. And then you kind of think of some small areas of what you can do to improve those areas. So instead of thinking of it in a big, the long term, the big picture view, you kind of bring it down and what can you work on in one specific week. These weekly goals sometimes for me end up looking like habits. If you've read a lot about habit tracking and habits, I have some things on my blog you can read about habits. But for me, these often will end up looking like habits. So if you want to phrase them as a goal or a habit, either way, it's really up to you and figuring out how you can most effectively figure out what's going to help you progress the most. So So you kind of just think about personal. So a couple of things that I've been trying to work on lately are my reading. I've used to be a big reader, but lately I haven't been reading quite as much. So that's something that I've been wanting to get into. So I might put a goal in here for 30 minutes of reading. And then you want to think about how often. Now, you can say every day, and that would be excellent if you can get it in. But if you are just starting this process and you're not quite coming into it a little bit, okay. So a part of this training is also talking about when you are feeling unmotivated. And this is a tactic that I use very often when I'm just really feeling like I'm not feeling productive, I don't want to do things, I'd much rather just binge Netflix, or, I'm not feeling my best. And so if you're not feeling super motivated, you might not want to set a goal for an everyday thing, because you want to set yourself up to succeed. So start out small, start out with things that you can be successful in. So maybe instead of every day, maybe I'll say 3 times a week. 3 times a week. Okay, so then you can pick which days those will fit in your schedule. Spiritual goal, okay. Again, something that I like to work on are more meaningful prayers, or more reading, more diligent reading of my scriptures, or things like that. So just kind of think of specific things in each of these categories. Right now, my husband and I have made a goal to do daily walks. So a health goal, I would say, is daily walks. And that is something I can do every day because I have that encouragement and I have that partner who can help me do that. So daily walks, and I'm going to say it every day. So you kind of fill out a goal for each of these areas here. And again, you don't need to fill out every single box. If you want to, that's great. If you feel super motivated and you feel like you can get them accomplished, that is awesome. But you don't want to set yourself up for failure by overburdening yourself with too many things to work on in the week, because at that point, that's when you start to see your motivation dropping, and then you're not going to get as much done as you set out. So my suggestion to you is to pick maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 of these things, depending on your motivation level, and figure out which areas of these you want to focus on each week. Maybe this week I'm working on my personal, my health, and my spiritual. Maybe next week I'll work on my business, my home, and my another category of my choice. So you kind of just decide which areas in your life you need to, or you want to focus on the most, where your priorities lie. And again, I have a lot of things posted about priorities too, so you can kind of look into that and think about what areas of your life you most want to prioritize. So let's say more meaningful prayers. Okay, so I've got my 3 areas for the week right there. And then these boxes right here are check boxes for when you accomplish that task. And so this is actually not a very measurable goal. So let's go ahead and add this in a little bit. So what that means is, let's say I would like to more gratitude than asks. Okay, so that means that I would like to make sure that I am always recognizing the things in my life that are positive, and then trying to, you don't have to not have any asks, but you definitely want to think about how the Lord has helped you in your life too. So those are kind of some things that you can look into right there. So these check boxes are the days that you can actually mark them off. So let's say throughout the week, you can load this up, save it, and load it up every day. Or if you've printed it out, you could just mark it if you put it next to your desk. But let's say on this week, I walked those days. Okay, so I set a goal every day, but I'll put a period there. That's not working. So I set a goal for every day, but I didn't quite make it. But 4 out of 7, that's more than half. That's pretty good. Okay. Let's say that I did 2 days. Okay. And then, so you kind of you mark them every day of which days you've done them. And then this evaluation box down here at the bottom is your chance to, during your weekly review, and I'll address weekly review in one of my future videos. But at one time a week, I usually do mine on Sundays. You want to kind of think back to your week and evaluate your productivity, evaluate what you've done and what you've accomplished, and then what you want to work on in the future. So you kind of look back and say, where am I now? And then where am I heading? And those kinds of things are really good milestones for you to look at in looking at your overall progress. So look at your evaluation and you're saying, how did I do throughout the week? What did I do well at? And how can I do better? So how did I do? What did I do well at? And how can I do better? Okay, and so for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over all of those because I think those are pretty self-explanatory, but you want to think about those areas in your evaluation box, shorthand it. This is just for you. You don't have to be super specific if you don't want to. You don't have to answer every single question. But this is just your way to really look at how you're doing, how you're progressing. And then next week, when you make your goal, you can kind of look at how you did the previous week and then adjust your goal accordingly. So if I ended up doing this for 5 days, maybe I can bump that up and say, hey, I want to read for 30 minutes every day now. But if you went on your walk only 3 days, maybe you want to look at that and you're like, okay, I'm going to set a goal for 5 days so that you can kind of adjust. You still want to push yourself, so you don't want to, set it too low and be like, oh, if I'm not going to work too hard for it, because that's going to give you less motivation. But you also want to adjust your I don't want to say your expectations, but you want to adjust your view of what you think you could accomplish throughout the week so that you feel successful at the end versus defeated. So that's really something that I've learned in my goal setting is when you can feel successful by the end of the week, motivated by your growth. You want to push forward, you want to keep going, you want to keep improving. That's really going to help you do better in the future. But if you feel defeated and worthless and feeling like you're just not getting the things done that you want to get done and just not feeling like you are making any progress, that's really going to compound the problem of the lack of motivation and why you just feel like you're not getting the things done that you want to. So again, my big tips are just set some easy goals to start out with. If you are doing great and you're super motivated, you can set more challenging goals. You can set more goals if you want to. This form right here is very adjustable based on your life and what you need. But what I love about this process is it's just a really quick win for deciding what you need to work on, deciding where you want to go when you're feeling super overwhelmed in not quite sure in what exactly you want to work on in your life. Because I definitely know the feeling of just saying, oh my goodness, I just have so many things that I want to improve, but just not quite knowing how to narrow it down. So this is a great way to do that because it divides it up into categories. It gives you a place for small goals each week, a place for you to evaluate your progress, and for you to calculate and track your progress throughout the week. So hope that helped, and let me know, as always, if you have any questions or if I can help you out. Thanks.